Whenever people think about what their financial journey looks like, there's a lot of things that keep them from really completing it. Stressors, like how much time is it going to take? Where do I get these expectations? What do I know that I need to think about in order to complete this process? A big one is always cost. How much is this going to cost in order to get the peace of mind that I'm looking for? And then if I spend that money, if I put down my investment, how do I know that it accurately carries out my wishes? There's a little bit of uncomfortability of just talking about death, but what we found is that most people can get over that with the right counsel. But if we don't do this, there's so much uncertainty. There's so much stress. It's the thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, oh my gosh, I know I need to do this. But statistics show that even 40% of adults have a will, which means 60% don't. And we're going to explain to you through this briefing how that is not a real plan. The complexities of what a real plan look like can seem overwhelming without the right guides, and that's why Joe and I are here to be able to help you today. And at the end of the day, there's some legal jargon that us attorneys just like to throw in Latin phrases or things to make us feel better about ourselves. We're going to explain all those terms for you so that you can make informed decisions.
And the ones we miss, you have a free resource in the Financial Enhancement Group Trust Services to come to and say, what in the world does that mean? I think Josh and I work well together, but one of the big things that come from our team is that we just know how to take very complex things and make them simple. And that's really what we're going to try to do here today. When I look at things that keep people from doing legacy planning, it usually stops right after they start, right? The brakes come on because they realize they want to do perfect planning. And then they wind up with an average or, sadly enough, a below average document. What Josh and I like to say is, listen, let's start with great documents, ones that are a foundation for you to be able to build on. That's why we built the Gold Standard Trust that came from his years of experience, more than 5,000 families that he served. And it came from 300 different law firms over the last 35 years where I've been able to read their documents. Some are good, some are great, and then there's the others. But we've been able to take those lessons and be able to build them into a document that we're able to use to our families. And here's some things that tend to stop people right from the very beginning, other than that enemy of great, which is good, right? Here, you want to have a perfect document and good planning. You want to say, hey, I'm going to name people, implementers, I like to call them, inside of my documents, but I don't have anybody to name. You'd be amazed the number of times that comes up. I don't know who to name, right? I know I need to do this, but who? Who is the person? We just had a conversation with my wife, Barbara, before we came here today. And she sat there for 5 minutes as we went through our planning and trying to figure out if something's changed of one of those names. But the change is easy, right? Modifications are easy. Start with a great plan. So what are some pitfalls, Josh, that people have that prevent people from coming in?
Aside from just not knowing where to start or some of the things that we talk about, fears, as far as how do we make sure that the people we want to give things to aren't slighted? If we're going to put some restrictions on maybe our beneficiaries getting everything in a lump sum versus over a period of time, why does that make sense or not make sense? You really need somebody to walk you through and guide you through what your options are as far as staggered distributions, different milestones, and just a way to do it so that your family doesn't feel like you didn't trust them. The next thing that we see is often, as we start getting a little older, we're afraid of losing control. Everybody out there knows somebody that's gone through cognitive impairment or a little bit of cognitive decline. And one of their biggest fears is really losing control. Science shows us that it's not just a switch that flips on and off. It's a gradient. Some mornings can be better than others. And sometimes our family or people close to us kind of freak out. And they say, oh my gosh, mom didn't know this, or mom double paid this bill. We should take away her right to pay bills. I don't think that's the right solution. In most cases, there's a lot better option. Then we run into the fact that sometimes, even if we do have beneficiaries, they aren't equal. It's the kind of thing where people are in different situations in life. They have different family makeups of their own. They have different needs. And on the other side of it, assets aren't the same either. You know, dividing farmland is one of the biggest problems that people in Indiana are going to run into if they have some farmland. Trying to decide what child gets a home or what we sell the home for is always a complicated matter. And one of the things that me and Joe do well with our team is help have those practical conversations so that you can make the decisions that are right for your family.
Beneficiaries aren't all equal. That doesn't mean they're not equally loved. It's just a very easy example when I talk about assets that some assets are tax-free, think your Roth. Some assets have already been taxed, think your brokerage account that you have, or CDs, or other assets that you have, and then your tax-deferred accounts that are inside of your retirement. You know, as far as the IRS is concerned, all three of those assets are different. And the same can be true of your beneficiaries. So don't overlook what Josh just said. A big part of what we do in your planning meeting, when we sit down and have your next steps legacy planning meeting, is helping you determine the best distribution strategy for your beneficiaries. And it may not be the same for Joe as it is for John, or it is for Jimmy, or it is for Jane. They can be different. Many times should be different.